With South Africa's water infrastructure stretched to breaking point after years of poor maintenance, Minister of Water and Sanitation, 𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗃 welcomed 24 Cuban water engineers to the country at the end of April.
You come at a time when we sorely need you. We come at a time when we would like to give our people hope.
Each engineer will earn about 700,000 rands a year, and a 65 million rands budget is set aside for the program over 3 years. South Africa has a long history with Cuba dating back to the liberation struggle. At a time when the South African government shunned the ANC, Cuba stepped in with considerable support. It's all part of an old relationship that you can't put a price tag on, says political scientist Dr. Piet Kroukamp.
Don't quantify what's happening here. What you have to think is that's a relationship. That relationship must have some operational features, some cooperative type of features. The Cubans, they have engineers, they have healthcare professionals in primary healthcare, and that's the level where the cooperation makes the most sense.
Water strategist Professor Anthony Turton has warned of imminent collapse in water management for years.
The water sector is in an advanced stage of collapse as a result, particularly of cadre deployment and the purging of skills from the water services value chain. And as a result of that, we're probably down to about 20% of the capacity that we had maybe in 1994.
But for local engineers, the thought of Cubans brought in to fix a problem they can, while their own work dwindles, is painful.
We've been asking ourselves, why is our government actually taking for granted our profession?
Mechanical engineer 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀 started his own firm in Durban in 2006. He specializes in water infrastructure engineering, but his work has dried up.
Looking at my qualifications, I was very sure that it would be easy for me to actually get the work. And I must say that when I started, it was relatively easy, but now we're just living from hand to mouth.
His company that once employed over 200 people is now run on skeleton staff, and even his son 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀, a qualified civil engineer, is now looking for employment elsewhere. That's why 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗍𝗃 opposes the department's decision.
It hits home when I see my boy every day looking for employment, and he's a damn good engineer.
We have many civil engineers, both junior and senior civil engineers, that remain unemployed or even not having full-time employment.
Vishal Lakshman is the CEO of the South African Institution of Civil Engineering. 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗍𝗃 promotes growth and sustainability in the industry. Of their 14,500 members, over 1,000 are unemployed.
I would assume that many of our qualified civil engineers who are unemployed are feeling hot under the collar now.
Yes, I think that's this event has exposed that. However, I think that the frustrations are long-term coming.
This isn't the first time Cuban engineers have come to assist the department. Former Director General of Water Affairs, Professor Mike Muller, was part of the first South African contingent that went to Havana in 2002 to negotiate the initial water cooperation agreement between the two countries.
I think it was the right thing to do at the time. It worked quite well.
Is it still a good idea now?
Look, in the early 2000s, we actually did have a shortage of personnel. The wonderful thing in 20 years is that the universities have produced hundreds of qualified engineers, many of whom can't be professionally registered because they can't get the right experience.
There's no doubt that there are many qualified yet unemployed engineers in the country, especially in these COVID times. The obvious question is, why isn't the government using them? Can you understand why there's an outcry from qualified engineers who are out of work?
Of course. And that is the reason why we are actually participating as far as the Infrastructure South Africa's initiatives are concerned, the unblocking of the bigger projects to stimulate the economy.
Acting Deputy Director General for Infrastructure, the Department of Water and Sanitation, Leonardo Manis, says the department has been supporting local engineers and the Cubans will not compete in the job market.
So in total, we have spent close to 10 billion in this financial year stimulating the private engineering sector, and we believe we can do even more.
Most of us in suburbia don't think much about water. We turn on a tap and it's there. But South Africa's unique hydrology, compared with the fact that we get far less than average global rainfall, means that it's a complicated and expensive infrastructure to get this water all the way from the Lesotho Highlands to here. While the Department of Water and Sanitation is custodian of the country's water, municipalities do the delivery.
Local government is responsible for the water supply and sanitation services, and they should be pushed to do the job better, but it's their job, they have the money, and if they use the money they had properly, we could do a lot better than we're doing at the moment.
And this is where the department sees the Cuban role as support for some of the most vulnerable municipalities.
They came to complement, they came to augment as far as the desire of the department is concerned in that space of the expertise that they have.
So we've got the experts doubting their qualifications.
Well, we have subjected the qualifications to our own regulatory authority in that space, which is SAQA, and it was confirmed as to be acceptable. So there was no need for the department to doubt the qualifications.
You must remember that Cuba's been under comprehensive economic sanctions since the Bay of Pigs and Cuban Missile Crisis. So, if anything, what the Cubans know how to do is they know how to keep old, broken machinery still going. You know, they're kind of famous for that. But they're not famous for water services management for the simple reason that only about 60% of the total Cuban population today is serviced with good quality, safe drinking water.
Cuba doesn't really have a sophisticated water supply system. So how will they contribute?
Well, it might not be sophisticated as far as the advanced and high-end technology in some areas in the country is concerned, but nor do South Africa have sophisticated engineering assets all across the country. When there's something that is highly advanced that need to be designed, a Cuban engineer cannot design that for you, and we will not expect them to design that for you. But as far as maintaining what we have, they can actually give great input into that regard in terms of our maintenance planning management.
The plan is for the Cubans to mentor the department's Learning Academy graduates at more outlying and rural municipalities where the need is greatest, partly because the department says South African engineers don't want to work in remote areas.
We don't agree with that. Engineers by nature work in remote locations.
I've never advertised a job which is in those far-flung areas and an engineer says, I'm not going there. We will go anywhere as long as the remuneration is right.
Are we talking about engineering companies that needs to be appointed to do certain projects? Because yes, we find engineering companies to actually do those projects in the most remote of areas, or is it engineers that are willing to come and work in the department?
You're not paying enough.
Well, we are working according to the laws of this country as far as the Public Service, what the Public Service Act tells us to do, and we remunerate accordingly.
Looking at it practically for a moment, do you think they can help our water situation?
Yeah, you don't have to be Einstein to fix South Africa's water problem. The infrastructure has just not been maintained. The Cubans will make no difference to that. It might alleviate in pockets of areas some of the pressure that exists because of the poor infrastructure. But we don't have the money to make the difference.
The last accurate numbers I saw was that we need something like 900 billion rand just to fix up what is broken in the water sector.
You know, we can plan for what we would love to have, or we can plan for what we've got. With the resources that we have, if used properly, we could fix lots of the problems that we have.
Prof, how do we move forward on the water and sanitation issue?
Look, the professional associations are trying to encourage the use of skills and the proper management of the skills we have. We've got to strengthen our organizations, starting with that local municipality in the Eastern Cape, all the way up to a Rand Water Board and the national department.
Engineers like 𝗀𝗍𝗄 and his son are feeling desperate about their future. How do the young engineers like your son and 𝗀𝗶𝗴𝗶 feel about the Cuban engineers?
They've just lost hope. Actually, my son was supposed to be here, and he said, Daddy, this thing won't help. For me, even in my head, maybe I won't be an engineer for long. I think I'll just venture into business. Wherever that takes me, I'll go there.